Thank you, Calum. We're 1.5 hours into FS Weekend and everyone seems to be having a great time. We're having great fun over at our booth. A lot of visitors, a lot of familiar faces, some new faces. And on that note, just so that I know who I'm talking to here, could I get a raise of hands of who are first-timers here at FS Weekend this year? All right. Great. Nice to meet you. My name is Magnus. I come from a company called Navigraph, and I'm here with my friend Steven. Navigraph is a company based in Stockholm, Sweden. We specialize in taking software and data from the real aviation domain, and we put it in the flight simulator domain. Most people, they associate Navigraph with airport charts. So when you're taxiing at an airport and you lift off and you follow a procedure and you go into the airways in the sky, you typically use Navigraph charts. To get your simulator up to date and also reflect the conditions on those charts, you typically want to update it with nav data. And these charts and that nav data come from Jeppesen, a Boeing company. We can also use this database to do flight planning. And for this, people can either use Navigraph charts. They go from A to B. And with the press of a little button, they get an automatically calculated route. But if you want to get more involved, we have a website called SimBrief where you can make a flight plan for free, or you subscribe to Navigraph and you get it based on the latest ARX cycle. All right, all of this makes sense to the seasoned pilots, but some are beginners. And I'm not saying that the ones that raise their hands are necessarily beginners, but I would like to introduce you to the fact that soon we will be offering flight training as well. This is a concept that I alluded to last year when we were kindly invited here as well. And we call it Navigraph Academy. So we think that either you're not really secure on how to operate the simulator, or you don't know how to fly an aircraft. And in any case, we would like to teach you how to navigate. So we're releasing a sequence of free videos on YouTube where you can learn how to fly a Cessna 172 along with no less than 3 instructors from the Navigraph team. We have a ground instructor, we have a flight instructor, and then we have a community manager. Many of these people are familiar faces. We have Jason, which you know from the past. We have Martin, who was here on stage last year, but unfortunately he fell ill before coming here, so he's not with us here today. So we're going to try to make the upcoming demo the best we can without his expertise. And then we have Andy, who's our community manager as well, as I think you might recognize from previous YouTube videos. Okie doke. Well, since last year, since we were kindly invited here by Janice and Niels, a lot of things have happened. We're roughly 1.4 million registered users on the Navigraph systems, and Navigraph has grown to become something like 45 employees now, and things are looking good. It's very, very exciting to see what Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 has brought, and it's been highly stimulating, to say the least. Well, reading from the title here, it says Navigraph Charts Feature Announcement. And I'm going to keep you on the edge of your seats for a little bit longer. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you'll be able to try out in our booth right after lunch. But let me just fill in what happened between the last time I was here and today. For instance, we have land cover and solar terminator. Especially land cover is good news for your VFR pilots out there, because now you can be able to tell tree lines much better, farmlands, and different land classifications. And this is especially good for the simulators out there that have stunning graphics, which we're starting to see. It's easier to look out the window and identify those tree lines, for instance. Something that was highly anticipated, which we released as well, was the performance calculator in SimBrief. Here you can decide how you want to load your aircraft, and see how quickly it might take off and get your different V-speeds, for instance. We also put SimBrief Dispatch into Microsoft Flight Simulator. Similar to the in-game panel for charts, you now have a window where you can do flight planning inside of the simulator. This was a highly anticipated feature which we included as well. The ability to see virtual traffic from all the major virtual ATC networks. And last but not least, the community effort here. All third-party developers that have reached out to us wanting to use our APIs and SDKs, making all this great data available also in your favorite software. At this point, I think there's a video lined up.
VOR DME approach, runway 18, transition level, flight level.
Yeah, 4 November, pushback start approved. Pushback start approved, and 4 November. Air from CTV uniform, standby, 11.905. Runway 2905, FS,
Cloud 1,700 feet, temperature 6, 3.3. VNH 1000 hectopascal.
That's right, people. Now you have the ability to use your stylus or keyboard input or finger, for that matter, to jot down those clearances and, or the quick ATIS talk that you might not be able to catch up on. The days when you note things in the sweaty palm of your hand is now over.
All right. So what are scratch pads? For those who might not know, scratch pads are, as Magnusson mentioned, a piece of paper typically, or at least in the past, where you jotted down notes, important notes, clearances. Digital scratch pads have become, in recent days, an integral part of the paperless cockpits. So we provide a space to write notes, clearances, and important data during your flight in a digital way. The Navigraph Scratchpad is a dedicated screen in the app, which can be used in various ways, where, for example, using the Apple Pencil gives a very high precision stylus. It's like writing on paper, really. And we have various templates we're going to show you. You can also use the virtual keyboard, which is a new feature. I'm not sure how many have used the annotations feature we released last year. But one additional feature we're going to bring is the keyboard, either to type on the virtual keyboard of the iPad or the physical keyboard of your PC. Right. So to the left here, we see an actual scratchpad used in a real ATR 72. To the right, we see a take on how a scratchpad would look in the Navigraph charts application. On the bottom left here, we see, the pinboard is where you have the clips of all the charts you need for a flight, and the pinboard is now attached to the scratch pads are now attached to the pinboard. So it's very easy to flip between the charts, the pinboard, and the scratch pad. So all this data is readily available during your flight. we mentioned we have some templates. So we have, first of all, some basic just areas to write, lined paper, checkered paper, blank, and just a notepad. And we also have a couple of real templates. For example, PyRep or Pilot Report template. ATIS, we will actually show how to use the ATIS template just after this. We have times out, times in, takeoff and landing data. This we will also show you. And we have a craft template, which is a way to jot down IFR clearances. Clearance limit, route, altitude, frequency, and transponder. And finally, holding clearances. This is just the beginning. We will add more and are, of course, open to feedback on what you think are important scratch pads. Okay, so as many of you are aware, when flying big planes, it involves typically lots of performance calculations. And one of the tasks involve finding out the takeoff speeds, or the V speeds. In many real aircraft, there is typically an app to do this in the cockpit, which you extract the data from and write it on your physical scratch pad. With Navigraph, you can now do the same thing. And if you didn't know, as Magnus mentioned before, we have now this takeoff performance and landing calculator in SimBrief. So we have now run this for an actual flight that we planned from Schiphol back to Stockholm, Arlanda, where we're based. So we will now extract these V speeds. Okay, so here we have our V speeds. And we now use the stylus tool. As you see in the very top bar, we have a couple of tools. The marked blue one now is the stylus, and we're typing with an Apple Pencil. But there we also see the typing tool. The A symbol there is to open the keyboard. We have, of course, different colors and different width, line width, to basically have a good visibility of what you're typing. So that's one way to now get all these data you get from SimBrief readily available during your flight. If you forget them, you just flip to the scratch pad and then back to your charts. So what we typed here was not only the V-speeds, but we can also type down the input data to SimBrief. For example, the runway, the weight, the flaps, the thrust, and temperature. All this data can go into the scratch pad. The next thing to show is the ATIS. So the ATIS, as you may know, is the automatic weather report given over radio at many large airports. Getting this data involves listening to this audio and writing down the weather. Let's see how this can be done now.
Information Quebec. Time 0850. Wind 250 at 13 knots. Visibility more than 10 kilometers. Clouds scattered, 1,100 feet. Broken, 2,500 feet. Temperature 11. Dew point 10. QNH, 1012. This was Schiphol Information Quebec.
So this is an example where this data is typically read out quite fast like this, and having a stylus readily available or typing with your finger or noting with your finger is quite effective. So this is something that we have been implementing in the best way possible to have this sort of real feel of typing or actually writing with your pen. So this is something that this is another example where the scratch pads are super useful because this is something you hear on beforehand, and you want to have this data available when you're flying. Okay, so there are many templates available, and we're open to new ideas of additional ones that we can implement. And right now we have the blank ones to just write down any notes, which can also be very useful. We take also, of course, the forum is one place where we take feedback, but the most important is talking to people, especially visitors at a conference like this. So the conversations we have in the booth are super important to get to know what might be friction points, what could be good additions, and how we can evolve this product. And this might seem like a small feature, but it's one of those really quality of life features that we prioritize because it makes life easier. We have a very long roadmap, and there are lots of exciting things to come. This is not released yet, but will be very soon.
Very soon is something that we're going to trademark, by the way.
Typical developer. All right, any questions? Come to our booth.
It's very interesting to talk to you guys in the booth. You got to have a really strong poker face because some of the features that you're suggesting has been in development for a little bit over a year at Navigraph. And since we're mindful about our developers and not to prematurely market anything, I can't say anything, and nor can Stephen. But some of the suggestions that you've been mentioning here are well underway. What we do typically once per year is that we have a workshop where we bring up all these ideas and then we plot them into a diagram that basically goes user value on the y-axis and effort on the x-axis. And then we plot all the features in that we have received during the past year, and then we work diagonally down. So the proverbial low-hanging fruit is what we complete first, and the stuff that is more advanced takes a little bit longer. But all of your suggestions are noted, and I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate the feedback that we get from you guys. So the smallest thing you have, please come see us in the booth, or for those of you watching online right now, the forum, we have a wish list there where you can enter your thoughts, and we'll get to all the requests one by one, I assure you. Another way in which we have connection with the community is through our survey. And it's not only users, but also partners. And by partners, I mean people that are arranging conferences. We have developers, media outlets, we have resellers, we have publishers, basically everyone in the community, I would say, I dare to say, is represented in this survey that has been running for many years now. We typically have something like 25,000 respondents. It was published last week, and it's running through this weekend until Monday. So if you haven't responded to this survey just yet, I suggest you do, because it's an excellent way to provide feedback not only to Navigraph, but to all of the developers and the aforementioned partners that are using this survey to guide their future development. It will be online until Monday. It's this year it's I think 58 questions, so slightly shorter than previous years. Perhaps scan this code right now, and on your way home, on the train or how you decided to get here, provided that you're not the designated driver, fill it out. And on that note, I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
We do have 2 minutes if you want to take any questions from any of the audience. Any questions? I see someone just up there. So the question is about having the Scratchpad feature on VR.
We hope to bring it to the in-game panel, which is available in VR. there are some things we need to resolve, but that's the plan, to have it available in VR too. Yep.
Excellent. Any more questions for Navigraph? Yes.
To get the traffic in the in-game panel? Yes. We would like to do that too. We're struggling a bit with performance because the in-sim panel is sort of running, or it can affect the performance of the simulator. So we need to find a good balance there of the features that we bring in, that they don't affect the simulator negatively. It's absolutely a desire of ours to get also the ATC traffic into the simulator itself, yes. When?
When? I know the answer to this. Soon.
Not very soon.
Oh yeah. So
That's the one you've trademarked.
Crap. Okay.
Lovely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Navigraph, thank you so much. Please put your hands together for Navigraph.